Alrighty, so today we're going to be talking about how to play on Erlenberg with the way that the meta has currently evolved. So Erlenberg is one of those interesting maps where 15, it's very, very common for entire teams to go to one side of the map. So typically what you'll find is like 14 to 15 players will go on the 1-2 line from the northern spawn, and then it's very common for like 14 to 15 players to go play the 9-0 from the southern spawn. So typically what will happen is because 15 players go to the one line, it's very common for the northern spawn to win the 1 line, and then it's very common for the southern spawn to win the 9 line. Now that's exactly what's going to happen in this game, and the problem that everyone faces is, okay, well, once we've controlled the 2 line, how do we go and kill the enemy team when they're all just camping on the 9 line ridge? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of walk into that. What you can see me doing right now is I'm bouncing the side of a light tank as he drives in front of everyone and doesn't die, but that's light tanks for you. I guess that's how scouting is done. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to be brawling here. You're going to notice I'm going to be sort of aggressive but passive. Passive-aggressive is a good way to term it. When I get lit, I'm not going to be super aggro because I don't want to get clicked by arties. So during this session, I was getting focused on by arty and whatnot, and so a lot of my play is going to be sort of careful because I don't really want to get clicked. Now, what you're going to notice is I do have shots in the IS-7. I'm not lit. What I'm doing by playing this position is I'm able to spot people who maybe run up the J line sort of stupidly, and that should give my team an edge. Naturally, I expect to win the 2 line, but spotting damage doesn't hurt me. You can see I light the 704 right there, and this is all sort of brawling. Now, one thing I notice is the 704 shoots, so I'm going to poke, but I don't have shots in him. And we're going to be slowly working on winning the 1 line because that's how this map needs to progress. If you don't win the 1-2, you're sort of screwed for the rest of the game. So as long as you can do it quickly, like before they get into your base, you're good. Now, what's happened here is we have pretty much won the 1-2. What I'm going to, at least from my perspective, I'm just going to check to make sure there's only the Conway left, and I'm going to drive up to here to try to get shots in people as they run away and make sure it's only the Conway left. Now, there's the Conqueror there, so I'm going to shoot at him, and I mean, he's not spotting me, so I've got that light tank camo and view range and stuff, so I can basically just shoot at this guy without worrying. And while I'm doing this, it's very important, if you're just shooting at someone and you don't have to do anything else, look at your map for the entire time of your reload. Like, there's no reason not to. Now, what I notice is the 100 lightweight hasn't run all the way. He is sort of scouting. He'll probably die with that type of scouting, given that my entire team is on this side. There's an E50 who's pushing into our base. I've noticed that, but I don't care because it's an E50 and we've got tons of tanks ready to defend the cap. And now we've just sort of, like, if you look at the map, we've won the entire western side of the map, and we can assume they've done likewise to the eastern side. So what you're going to see me doing is I'm just looking for shots in people because they've sort of pushed into the middle. This is very, very common for bad players to make this sort of play. Like, you never want to be on the 5, 6, 7 because that puts you below the enemies in a shitty position. So you can see that's what the 54A1 has done. We've got a couple people who have done that too. Normally you would expect those people to die, as I'm just looking for shots in this 54A1. So this is the problem, that this is like the typical, we've progressed far enough where this is where you have to deal with the problems that are associated with this map. So what you can very easily infer, it's like, okay, we're up 4 tanks, but what's going to happen is they're all camping on like H9 or D9 or C0. They're all in those types of areas. So what I'm going to do is, because the majority of my team is down here, most of the enemies are going to be prepared for a southern push. So they're all, like, most people can look at their mini-maps and they will be realizing that, okay, they're going to have to defend their cap soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push up the north. Now I'm going to do this carefully because I'm alone, but all the time I'm not really expecting people to be ready for me because we've got a massive blob of tanks who are ready or preparing to push the south. So you can see there's an RU right here. As I said, he's not looking at me. I caught him off guard. I put a shot into him. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to challenge him because I've only got so much HP. If he were to just YOLO me, I'd be screwed. And I'm also worried about tanks sitting up at D9 and C0. So that's very, very common at this stage in the game when there's sort of like 4 to 8 tanks dead. Obviously we have none dead, but once the battle has played out, progressed to this point, it's very common for people to be up at C9, D9, C0 type area. So I'm aware of that. Now you see me driving in the open. I can do that because I'm not spotted. Generally, how do I say this? When people are in a position like this, it's very easy for them to be too aggressive, right? So what you'll notice is I waited until I have teammates before I'm going to push the 9 line. The eventual goal is to take D9, and then I can sort of play on this side of the ridge. But if you do it too soon, you're going to run into some guy who's sitting at C0 and hasn't looked at his map and is just sort of sitting there waiting for something to happen. Now, that's exactly what's going to happen on this game, but because I'll have teammates, you'll see the Skoda, the Batchet, and the Tortoise, I'll be able to deal with it without a problem. So, we're pushing in. This is how it has to happen. Normally, your southern push is not going to survive because there's a ton of TDs lined up ready to shoot at them. That's going to happen in this game. It's going to be a blowout, but what can I say, you know? Like, I can't ask for the enemies to be better and, like, with a straight face, so there's that. Now, one thing you'll notice is I am pushing up. At this time, I knew there was a T10 right to my left, but I didn't really care. I wanted to get to, like, this side of the hill. The RU was a bigger threat to me because I didn't really... like, a T10 who sits there all game, just off the top of my head, probably isn't a huge threat. Now, so I'm going to shoot at the 54A1 because I want to clear the backside. I took the hit. Whatever to me. I had the hit point, so I didn't really mind. You can see the T10 is now driving around. He's not really going to be a big threat. Now I can just sort of farm him from a safe position. And you'll notice I took the hit. I probably didn't need to, but like I said, I didn't really care. I took the hit, and now I don't have to worry about a 54A1 clipping me out as I play this position. So that's why I needed him dead. Now, the T10 is going to be probably the priority, all things considered. They've got a lot of tanks in the south. I do need to be careful of TDs back here as I poke this, but you'll notice I'm not spotting them. So TDs in that position will only be really concerned about these people pushing in, so they won't really expect a light tank to be spotting. Even if I'm lit, it's like most TD players don't have the situational awareness. Like, let's be real, they probably just sat in H9 all game. So it's very easy to spot people as they sit on this ridge ready for a south push because they're not really expecting to get lit. So I'm not too worried about that. You can see I put a shot into the T10, get the kill, and this is how I try to deal with this type of situation. It's like, okay, well, pushing the south doesn't work, so I'm trying to push the north, and now we sort of have them enveloped in like one quarter of the map. That's where their whole team is. So what you see me doing is I'm testing out angles. There isn't really any specific way to do this, but I poke forwards. I see the 263, so there's that. I'm not going to challenge him because he's a 263 and I'm a WZ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go play the angle that I originally planned to play, and that's going to be over here. So we can just go drive there because it's just driving. And that is really going to secure the deal. This play works really, really well endgame, I have found, because a lot of people, well, let me put this into context. Let's pretend we had 5 to 10 tanks and they had, let's say 10 versus 10 right now, or 8 versus 8. It's very common for TDs to be sitting here in this area, and maybe one guy will be sitting here. What this play will let you do is when you've got teammates inevitably on this line, is it gives them shots. Like, this is the ideal scouting play that anyone could make. You can see that it hasn't really needed to happen here, but this play is just so powerful because, I mean, I flanked a light tank. How many people get to say they flank light tanks, you know? So there's that. He's putting shots into me now because he realized I exist. I hit him for like 390. And this puts us into a bit of a crossfire, but because I can just back up, like, none of these guys are able to YOLO me. If they YOLO me, I've got so much support I'm going to die. So this position is relatively safe. Now, I've decided I'm not going to fight the hull down RU251, who's going to be relatively hard to hit. And I'm going to come over to here, and so I can put a shot into the Conway. And now, as I'm poking this, you'll see I didn't even really care to look to my right. It's because no one would have expected that play. I'm so mobile and so moving, it's like, what are the chances that someone's actually going to be looking at me? So I can make this poke. Now the Conway, I mean, if you read the chat, it's just me being sarcastic, by the way. But you'll notice the E100 hasn't even noticed me yet. The Conway realized I exist because I shot at him. I shoot at the E100, now I back up because the Conway knows I'm reloading. And this is sort of just the play that I'm going to be making. The Conway dies, and from here on, it's just sort of chasing damage. We're going to push into the E100. And one thing I want to talk about, not in really regards to winning games, but in regards to damage farming, too often people are too scared to take hits. I know the E100's alpha. Well, two things. So I'm analyzing the situation because I sort of want to make it a 5K game. What you're going to notice is the way this E100 has played all game is going to dictate how I challenge him. So I know he's been sniping in his E100 all game. He's been sitting in this bush with the TDs pretty much all game. I mean, he hasn't been spotted doing anything else. And so really my opinion of him isn't too high. I don't expect his ability to be that great. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, how do I do this there? I'm just going to drive into him. I'm not too worried. You can see he starts to look at me. So what I do is I just sort of change the angle. Most people are not really... I don't know, he reacted quicker than I would have expected, but whatever. I'm going to put, I had the hit points to take the hits if I needed to. He kills the Leo PTA, and now I'm behind this guy. So this is how circling is done. What you're going to notice is if he turns his turret this way, I'm going to be reversing. So that would mean I'm screwed. So I need to try to get him to turn his turret like you see. I don't want to reverse, right? So I pivot my tank, so now I'm driving forwards so I can run away from his turret reverse faster. And that's going to put me at an advantage. You can see he notices the 1390, finish him off, and now I'm going to be able to get the kill. So, I mean, he's given up. Understandably, it was a very close game. This entire session I played today, and this was like the best replay that I got. All 15-0 type games just like this. But, I mean, that's the theory of Erlenberg. That's how you have to do it. You win the 2-line and then you push the north because people will be expecting a push from the south. And then you're able to sort of play it by ear for the most part. If you can play the 8-line ridge like I did over here, you're really set up for success. So that'd be my advice. And yeah, let's go take a look at the end plates, I suppose. Alrighty, so my advice for this map is as follows. Win the 2-line, just like I did. You know, I obviously I used techniques specific to my tanks to win the 2-line, but whatever you're playing, you want to win the 2-line, because once you win the 2-line, you're able to sort of push in from them from 2 angles. Now, the second thing is to try to win the north, because like I said, I mean, I'll just use an E100 as an example. It's very common for people to be camping up there and here, and so what these people are going to be doing is they're going to be looking south, right? They're going to be defending against this southern push that our team is going to be doing, and they're going to be ready for that. And so that's what you sort of want to prepare to take advantage of, because everyone's going to be worried about defending their cap as if you can cap on Erlenberg. So that's what happens. And so the way I take advantage of all these people who are looking this direction is I just drive up the north. Now this has to be relatively cautiously done, because like I said, it's very common for there to be tanks here, here, and here, and maybe not a huge amount of tanks, but like one is enough to screw over a light tank driver any day of the week, especially when you're pushing up an open field like this is. So that would be my advice. Now, I mean, you saw the way I pushed it, so I don't really need to describe it, but once you've done this play, like once you've won this area of the map, effectively you have this entire ridge to use, because what will happen is you're going to have teammates who play in this area, like not literally this, but they'll control this line right here, and so they have shots all over here. So what you can do is you can scout, and if you have good support, I mean, you have to be careful, because if you're in a light and like a bat shot YOLOs you, your team is not going to be able to kill a full HP bat shot before he clips you out. So you have to look at the context of who you're scouting, because if a TD or a bat shot or something YOLOs you and you're low HP, there's nothing your team is going to be doing. A lot of people have too high opinions of their teammates' ability to support. So that would be like, take it into context when you're being aggressive and playing under this ridge, because sometimes you will get YOLO'd, and if you're full HP, yeah, you can generally make it work when you've got support, but if you're low HP like I was, you need to make sure you have really, really good support before you do that. So I mean, once you're playing this ridge, it's very easy to win. And then also, if your team sucks, like let's pretend, I don't know, your team all drowns themselves. Let's pretend they just want to kill themselves. They're tired of playing this shitty game. They go drown themselves, and then you're left alone right here. Well, it's very easy just to escape the situation. You slowly back up, like as you watch your teammates dying, because teammates don't collapse immediately. It takes some time. So you pay attention to the scores. You see, okay, well, we're losing, you know, a couple tanks over here. Now we've only got 3 left, and they've got a ton of vehicles who are still camping up there. You would slowly back up to like this area, and that gives you an escape route so you can go back and play the north if you need to. So that would be my advice for this map. I mean, let's go look at the end plates, I suppose. So as you can see, victory, mastery, first class, 5,121 damage, 4 kills, 1187 XP, lost credits, but I don't really care anymore. I'm just selling premiums at this point that I'll never play because tier 8 sucks. So yeah, hopefully this video is helpful. If you want to see more, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I hope to see you around. Later, guys. Bye-bye.